Hey, what's up? Welcome to Basscraft. So, there's actually a heat wave happening in Ireland right now. I think it's like the hottest week in about 70 years or something. And funnily enough, I know if you're watching this, you only ever see my shed from this angle, but to the right of me, there's another section that's like storage. Well, it's actually just a complete mess always. And there, about 2 weeks ago, I decided to clear it out for the first time in, I'd say, 5 years. And I found this big fan that I had inherited off a friend. He was moving away and he just gave me this big huge fan, and I actually was like, why do I even keep this thing? I've never used it once. So I put it aside to bring to the dump or to give away for free, and in typical procrastinating form, I didn't get rid of it, and boom, a heat wave comes 3 weeks later. And this little fan here is been a lifesaver the last week. I literally wouldn't have done a single bit of music or video editing or done anything without it. So thank God for the fan, and sometimes procrastinating is a good thing. So I've actually made a good few videos in the last few weeks, so check out my YouTube channel. I made a good one about a Chris Squire inspired left hand bass technique, where I take the line from long distance run around and make this really hard left hand exercise. So link in the description to that. So today's guest is Andrew Freed, and Andrew runs the Bass Freedom bass education platform. He's well known on TikTok. He has around 50,000 followers as we speak. Really active on Instagram and puts up these super detailed YouTube videos, which are awesome as well. And then, so if you sign up to his platform, you get like access to all the stuff he's made, like courses about arpeggios and all these things. So definitely check that out. And of course, he's available for private lessons as well. So we really got into it, and he had a real interesting take on why it's a good idea to learn some of these what might be taboo bass techniques like sweep picking and tapping and crazy slap. And he kind of was just explaining how they just benefit you as an overall musician and will just improve your bass playing, even if you never use them on the bandstand. Also, as a teacher, he encounters students who want all kinds of different things. Not everyone wants to go out there and play gigs. People just want to learn bass for fun sometimes. So as usual, like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that stuff. And I just started a mailing list for the podcast and all the stuff I'm doing. Link to that in the description. And yeah, see you in a minute. Sound is the most important part. Yeah, we're looking good. So what time is it where you are?
It is 11:57, noon here.
Cool. You're teaching all day, every day. That's kind of your thing, just teaching at home.
Yeah, teaching on Zoom is my main thing, in addition to just, making content.
Cool. You're in Baltimore, which most people outside of America would know from The Wire, the TV show, pretty much.
Yeah, when people think Baltimore, they think The Wire or like heroin.
Well, I didn't want to say that, but...
No, it's actually not all like that. I mean, we obviously have a city and like a ghetto area, but I live more in the county. There's tons of great areas. I love Baltimore. It's definitely a good city. It's definitely home for me.
Is it a good music city? Like, does it have a fairly vibrant scene?
Yeah, I think so. There's some times where I've questioned it compared to other cities, but I think I've questioned it more because I've played in bands throughout, my whole life and in the Baltimore scene, but I guess never had one that like I'm touring with worldwide now. So I feel like, that's all luck there, which is, a big part of that. But it's definitely got a good music scene. I guess personally, I've definitely been gigging in it and a part of it for my whole life. So I have some mixed feelings towards it, but it's definitely vibrant for sure.
Yeah, well, a lot of people put a pressure on themselves when they stay in I'm still in my hometown, but they think that they need to go to a big city to try and make it. But you could go to that city and nothing would happen, and it would be even worse. Like, so you got to, I suppose, figure out what success is to you. Like, if you're happy teaching in your hometown and playing on the scene there, like that's cool too.
No, absolutely. I never wanted to go too far away. I mean, when I was in high school, I already knew I wanted to do music and go to a music college and all that stuff, but I never questioned going to like something like Berkeley or one of those out of state places, because I was always tied down here with because I did play in bands. I mean, at the time I didn't know where they would go, and friends, family. I'm definitely kind of a homebody for sure, but as I said, Baltimore's a good scene. I just everyone has their certain route. Mine's now, thank for social media and education and love teaching, talking, playing music. That's kind of my thing. It's always been my thing, but I've really honed in on it the past couple of years.
It's almost more sociable, the Zoom lessons, I find, because you have more time for a little chat, because they're not getting driven to where your lesson is, and there's not another kid or adult waiting outside the door for them to get lost and start again. You really can have a chat, and you could just send a little email on your phone, say to the next person, oh, I'm kind of getting into something here, give me 10 minutes. That's kind of cool about it.
Yeah, no, I'm very passionate about Zoom lessons and all that stuff. I was sort of doing it like Skype and a little bit. I had a couple lessons before COVID and all that stuff, so I had a little bit of a head start, but I really jumped into it. I used to do exactly that, like house to house, teach at a music store, and now I work completely from home, and I really have a nice kind of like upgraded my setup just for that. I got a couple camera angles, and all that stuff, down
Nice.
here. So I get some up close shots, and it's so much easier. The emails, the whiteboard, the screen sharing. I got a piano right here because I like to use that for reference, and all my instruments. So no, Zoom's the way to go.
I was checking out your website, and you had kind of a preview of what you got. It was like you were driving the Starship Enterprise when you were showing off your setup. Like it was like the most amazing home studio for teaching ever. It's like you're getting into a spaceship ready to give Zoom lessons. So you're definitely the most kitted out teacher I've seen online. Like,
oh, that's awesome to hear. Thanks, man. That's so funny you call it a spaceship, because I literally that's what I call it. So I'm like, my spaceship of a desk. It's like one of those sit and stand stations which like go up and down. So I'm definitely more of an electric player, but I always played upright bass. Growing up, I was a jazz major, so I played upright. I definitely have really switched to electric more in adulthood than college days and gigging and jazz gigs, but I do still have some upright bass students, bluegrass, jazz, some stuff like that. So I'll pull out the upright and rise this up, instead of like the camera is awkward. So it's definitely a good setup. I knew that I saw the opportunity. I was like, I don't see myself going house to house ever again, and because I was gigging less actually. I was definitely gigging less in the last couple of years because of teaching. I just found it more financially stable and consistent.
Totally, yeah.
Because I used to gig a lot, but now it's kind of pick and choose for me, and social media and Zoom's my thing.
And what you were saying, you used to be more upright. What were your bass beginnings? Was it more in that kind of acoustic bass, or it wasn't your typical? They needed a bass player, and you were the worst guitarist in the band, so you became the bass player.
No, so yeah, it wasn't more. I didn't play upright first or anything. I actually, when I was in elementary school, the first instrument I ever played was like the alto sax when you're in like third or fourth grade, and I hated it, and it made me dizzy, and I just hated it. So I quit that. So I didn't actually play an instrument in school until I started playing the bass, the electric bass. And then my middle school teacher was like, why aren't you in orchestra? I was like, oh, well, I was just young. I didn't put two and two. Like, well, I play electric bass. I'm playing AC/DC and Led Zeppelin. I didn't think the classical big thing with a bow correlated. So I switched to upright bass and just played all through middle, high school, and into college when I became a jazz major. I also did electric and upright.
We should talk about that, because this is an Irish-based podcast with international guests and Irish guests, but all the American guests keep talking about this jazz school. We don't have that here. Like, even I had one of my students, like the leaving, they call it the high school music program in Ireland, leaves a lot to be desired. I'm just going to say it. It's true. I had a student this week, and he's doing his final exams, and I had to explain to him how to make a major chord, like what's the root, the third and the fifth, to make his bass line. So, but what is this jazz thing that happens in the high schools over in America? Every school has it, do they?
So, jazz bands, pretty much. Well, jazz band is just either a class or an after school extracurricular thing that school offers, where you have a teacher and a whole combo or group of musicians that study jazz. In middle school and high school, it's very like reading music and just whatever your teacher picks. And then in college, you really only get to pick two things. It's like you're going to go the classical route, you're going to go the jazz route. You can't be a rock major.
College in America is like around the age of 14 or 15, is it? That's what you call college?
No. College is 18.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I'm so American that I don't even think about other cultures and their college standards.
No, I think in England it's different. We're the same as you. You go to high school and then you go to college, but in England they split them off around 14. They kind of specialize a bit quicker, so it's just different. But yeah, that's class, so that you get to do jazz that early, like get introduced to it.
Oh yeah, you get to do it as early as middle school, which is 12, 13. It was like an after school thing there. I actually played guitar and bass in the jazz band. I was in like two of them. I was really into it. I was definitely a music kid, for sure. And no, yeah, it's there's plenty of music in the schools. It depends where you come from. It's not just America. I know some people in different states that I teach that are like, the music program, they don't really have jazz band or something. So it really depends on just where you're at. I guess I was lucky growing up in Maryland, and at that time there was a pretty good, just music was present within my schools.
Mm-hmm. Did you actually like jazz? Like, did you have a load of Weather Report records, or were you still listening to AC/DC and that kind of stuff?
It's a good question. I was a late bloomer to jazz for sure. Being a jazz major and then playing in high school, I always found that jazz pushed all the boundaries of music and everything. Most of the things that I have learned from a theory standpoint that really, really applied came from jazz, whether it was just walking bass lines, just chord theory, improvisation, all that stuff really came from jazz. Is it my favorite genre of music? I listen to it often, and but I have, I'm pretty versatile with what I listen to. It wasn't my first love, but I think I could definitely say I've learned the most from it. But I'm not a jazz guy. Like, if you look at my social media, you won't see too much jazz stuff. But if you actually dissect a lot of what I do, it's definitely taken from a lot of the theory of jazz, where I've learned a lot of mine.
I was thinking myself the other day about what I like listening to jazz, but I don't really pursue playing in a jazz band or anything like that. And I figured out why I like listening to jazz. It's because when I listen to it, I don't analyze it like when I listen to rock music. When I hear like a rock song, I'll go, oh, nice E minor pentatonic lick there, or whatever. Like, I can hear what's going on. But when I listen to jazz, my brain doesn't do that because I'm not really as familiar with the language. So I can just kind of listen to it like I listened to music before I learned the bass or something. It's like I'm still just a music listener, and that I like that about it. It's more free. I can just relax into it a bit freer than I would with. But rock music is still my favorite genre at the end of the day. But that is definitely one of the reasons why I probably like listening to jazz.
Yeah, no, I was a rocker growing up. My parents were musicians, so they were in like a rock band in the 70s and 80s. So I was definitely raised on rock music. Jazz was more of a school, and I wanted to learn more type of influence than like, oh man, I love jazz. So
cool. So we should talk about Bass Freedom. So that's your platform. That's your bass platform, your website, and how does it work? I suppose you could give us a brief outline of how Bass Freedom works. There's a lot of these popping up at the moment, but your videos are crazy detailed. I think that's probably one of your strongest point. Like, you go into unbelievable detail, especially with the slap stuff. You're awesome at breaking down all those rhythms and the different techniques that the people that do slap do, because a lot of people have a different way of playing slaps, but you're able to analyze each person. So I guess you can explain best how this Bass Freedom platform works.
Yeah, thanks, man. And we kind of jumped right into things. I never even said like thanks for having me here, and I'm glad that I got a chance to come on. You've interviewed some people that I definitely look up to, and I'm definitely happy to be here. So first thing, thank you. Kind of jumped.
I love your videos, man. I really like the stuff you put up. Like, they're right up my alley. Like, the detail and the quality of the video and everything. And we'll get into the other stuff you're doing. I think your TikTok stuff is taken off, which I know absolutely know nothing about. So you can teach me all about TikTok. But yeah, we'll talk about Bass Freedom first.
Yeah. So Bass Freedom, something I've wanted to do almost my whole life was just like once I got into teaching was how can I want to put everything I know about music and the bass like into the world, and that's essentially what Bass Freedom is. It's in its first year of life. I launched March 1st, and I had been working on courses and lessons and website building and all the business end of just starting your own business. And Bass Freedom is exactly that, but it's essentially just a subscription website that you pay $15 a month and you get access to the lessons and the courses that are on there. So it's still everything I do, create content, teach Zoom lessons, work on Bass Freedom. That's my life goal right now, is just to get everything I know onto this website. So what it offers, is tons of, as you said, detailed videos. I appreciate that because I find some videos, there's a difference between being long-winded and detailed, because it's like, I want you to be able to kind of pick and choose what you have to do. There's the PDF and the transcription there. If you just want to look at the exercise and learn it, go for it. It's there. You can download the backtrack. I try to have multiple tempos. I pretty much just thought, what did I want when I was growing up that I didn't have? Even though all the websites, there's tons of great education websites out there, but what didn't they have? I found that they kind of told you what to do it. Maybe there was like a printable PDF, but like that was it. Like, I wanted like an example for that specific concept, multiple tempos, I want to be able to download it, practice with it. So even if it takes me a little longer to give to the information that I'm teaching, for that to be able to be studied, and for me to take my time and put a lot of different ways of practicing up there, it's worth it. So that's essentially what Bass Freedom is. It's a bass website. If you want to access it, it's just a monthly fee, and you get everything on there. And it's tons on the way. As I said, it's in its first year of life. So, and another thing is, people can reach out to me. I find like when I sign up for a website, everyone's untouchable.
Yeah, so that's weird, isn't it? Like you're like, he's still the guy on YouTube, but I'm paying him $15 a month. So it would be nice to be able to have some contact with you. Like,
yeah, that's where I think, some people be like, oh, well, what if, down the line, it's completely overwhelming and you can't answer everyone. I'm like, that's a great problem to have. Right now, in its first year of life, I'm fortunate to have, a good bit of subscribers, but everyone I'll take, that's part of the job. I'll take time to answer emails. There's something called member uploads, which if someone's like, hey man, like I'm working on your exercise, like I'm working on this technique, like send a video in, with a message, I'll look at it, critique it, like that's the thing. I don't want to be untouchable, even though I do get a lot of messages. It's part of it to fish through them and to answer people.
Would you ever think of doing like a monthly bass hang? Like, because on Zoom you can have like nearly 100 people or something, or more, even a few hundred, I think, and like just hang out with all the Freedom people.
I would, if things really start to continue to evolve, absolutely, I'm down for all that. I'm very passionate about what I do. If people want to hang and learn, that's it. I'm definitely not a nickel and dimer or all about the money or untouchable. I just want to play and share bass with the world,
And you find yourself playing a lot of music these days. Obviously you have to learn the songs. Is it giving you kind of bringing the joy back into music and giving you a passion to play the bass, having all these courses to put together and songs to transcribe?
Oh yeah, the website has definitely been, in the past year, the most motivated I've ever been. I never lost just the playing aspect. I'm teaching all day. I'm lucky. I mean, I do music for a living, so I've never lost that part of it. But yeah, no, for sure, the website has a different type of motivation than seeing your follower count go up. Because I've been doing social media or videos for probably 4 or 5 years. But this last year has been a huge uptick, and it's been very bass heavy, because I used to do like other covers and like split screens, different instruments, dress up in costumes. I mean, like I've definitely changed a little bit, but there's been a little bit of there's definitely been evolution.
Hey, you were kind of just throwing everything at the wall, seeing what would stick, like when you were new at it.
Yeah, at first I did what I wanted, and what I wanted to do was, popular covers of things I loved and to put them in my own arrangement. So if people really wanted to like dig back, if you went to my YouTube or Facebook or just scroll down, you'd see these Andrew Freed music covers, which I did like Harry Potter, Star Wars, The Simpsons, I mean Pirates of the Caribbean, you name it, like just like all these popular covers, but I did it in my like flashy rock, like just my way, whatever I heard in my head. So there's still things I'm proud of. I've just moved on since then. So, but those are some fun stuff if anyone wants to dig down and look at what I used to do.
And what's going on with TikTok? I took my girlfriend's phone there yesterday and I went on it so I could look at your profile. I don't even have it on my phone. What's the story? You seem to be getting a lot of traction on there, like with the videos you're doing.
Yeah, so Instagram and TikTok have been taken off mainly because of this underrated baseline series I've been doing. And it's essentially I pick a song that I think has an underrated baseline. It's completely my opinion, but most people tend to agree with me. And I say, songs you didn't know had good bass lines. And I put some educational facts over there. I boost my bass and turn the track way down so it's really present. And as I said, spit some facts there. And people have been loving that because I've been attracting more than just the bass player. I get people saying, oh my God, like I never realized this before. I'm listening to the bass more. I had some people sending me pictures with a new bass being like, you inspired me to get a bass. I'm like, wow, I didn't expect this. This has been, I had 2,000 followers on TikTok, like a couple months ago, and now I have almost 50. It's been simply because of the baseline series. So I owe it a lot, and it's a lot of fun.
Are there any basses you think are underrated, not just bass lines, but bass players that probably should get a bit more recognition than they do? Like,
absolutely. This is once I start talking about specific people is where I find people be like, oh, either he's not underrated or something like that. The bass line in a specific song, people will be like, all right, maybe a lot of people didn't know about that. But absolutely, I just released a YouTube video yesterday from Chris Wolstenholme, the bassist of Muse. I had some people comment, be like, "Oh, this guy's not underrated." But it's like if you put 20 people in a room and I said, "Who's the bass player of Muse?"
Yeah,
I bet you 18, 19 of them would be like, "Oh, that guy's sick," but I don't know his name. And if you don't know his name, I think he's underrated. So there's an example of someone.
Well, I was in a cover band back when they only had Origin of Symmetry out, which is their third album, I think. And I was really new at playing the bass. Like, I didn't even know many of their songs. But the guy who was, the guitar singer guy was like, listen to the bass playing. This guy plays really interesting lines. So, like, I love Chris's playing. Like, it really, I think Matt Bellamy might write some of the bass lines, but the bass lines are always really hooky and catchy, and his tone especially, the choice of effects is always awesome.
Yeah, that video I literally released this week goes into all that. His massive tone, his I get into the theory, his harmonic approach. I've seen Muse too. They were nuts. So I'm a big fan. I definitely probably have a list of underrated bassists. Some with some small groups who have been a big influence of mine, and some, as I said, that might be on the fence with people being like, is that guy underrated? But I'm not going to say Jocko or Paul McCartney, but I'll name drop. I'll say the guy from Muse I think is underrated.
Yeah, and your man from Duran Duran, I know though the bass is always very prominent, but I think he could go under underrated bass player
for sure. I did Rio in one of my series for the underrated bass lines, and that was a crazy line with the crazy ghost notes, and he does that for the whole song. So it's definitely been fun doing also the series for the sake of learning some players that I hadn't really shed before, and like, wow, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah, I think Paul Deacon, from Queen, obviously everyone knows he's a good John Deacon, Paul Deacon, that's his brother. But he is amazing. Like, not only is he underrated, he must be one of the best ever bass players in rock. Like, he does all these extensions, and he plays, like, if Freddie is on the piano, he'll play like the fifth, like make it into a slash chord and all this stuff, like real advanced stuff for a bass player in a rock band. He's absolutely awesome, but you probably have him on your list of people to do, or you've done him already.
He's definitely on my list. I want to do a YouTube video on him, just him, for the underrated bassists. Killer Queen, the Queen song did make the series last week. I did a Killer Queen video. People like that one. I agree. He's great. It's easy to be overshadowed when you have Freddie Mercury and Brian May in the band.
Yeah, and the drummer with his class harmonies. That's him that does all the backing vocals with Freddie. You know, those pristine double vocals that they always have. That's the drummer and him singing. It always sounds amazing.
That's awesome.
But awesome. When it comes to gear, you're rocking a Warwick usually, are you? I see you have a Jazz kind of behind you.
So my main two basses are a Fender Jazz. This one here is the American Professional Series, a 4-string. And then my other one is a 5-string Ibanez. It's one of the SR Premium 1905. It's like one that I walked into a music store, played it, and just fell in love and walked out with it. Those are my two main ones. I do have a Warwick. Warwick I play occasionally. That one I had more in my teen years, and I kind of put it aside and then picked it up recently and fell in love with it again. I also have a 5-string another Fender Jazz, an American Elite, but I don't play that one as much. So the main two are the Fender 4-string and the Ibanez.
Are you a 5-string guy, or you just never got into it?
I'm definitely a 5-string guy.
Oh, yeah.
I've played a 5-string as my main bass probably for the last 6 years, but I got a 4-string since I launched Bass Freedom and teaching. Sometimes the 5th string isn't very friendly to people who it might confuse, so I used the 4-string for teaching, and then I just fell in love with this bass. It's got that classic bright. It's got the best slap tone, and the Ibanez is a different type of cut through tone. But I'm very happy with my tone and my sound for the first time like ever, because I used to be someone who just bass and amp, plug in, no pedals, nothing, didn't care, for the longest time. And then once I got into recording, that I really started to focus on my tone.
Yeah, I've got an Aerodyne. It's like the worst bass ever for lessons because it has no dots on the front. So you're like,
oh yeah,
you're
people be like, which fret are you on?
Yeah, like what fret, or go to the third dot, and they have no idea where I am.
That's funny. I also play out of an Aguilar. I use the Tone Hammer 500, which is a great amp, and some pedals too. I use mainly a compressor pedal from Dark Glass Electronics. And that's kind of my thing. I like that compressed tone, especially when I do a lot of slap stuff, aggressive finger style, like the compressed tone. Got a nice dialed in sound.
Is your bass plugged in?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear some of that, because when you do that double thumbing stuff, it always cuts through really good, like whatever way you set up your tone. It's perfect for all those percussive and light touches, like.
Yeah, I think on my Ibanez it really cuts through, but still on this bass, it's got a nice, the Fender Jazz still has a bolstered presence. Can you hear this?
Oh yeah, sounds really good.
Yeah, sometimes I'm going through the interface or through the amp into the interface. So the mic does pick up a little bleed, but it's mostly interface.
It's okay. We've got Yod in the background. He's like supervising here. He'll make sure everything works.
Wait, say that again?
We've got Yoda in the background watching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm definitely a big, a nerd at heart when it comes to Star Wars and Harry Potter. But
you're not the first guest who's a Star Wars nerd.
No, yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. It's funny because some people, when they see this, they're like, oh, man, you're a big nerd. I'm like, definitely, but like, I'm a sports guy too, and, a musician, but I definitely dabble with Star Wars and Harry Potter. That's my jam. So yeah, this I'm not sure just with that through the interface how this sounds, but it definitely has a good little cut through mix.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, the double thumb. Yeah, I guess I can use this other camera angle too.
Ooh, getting fancy. 2 angles.
Yeah, I do a lot of that double thumb approach, and with the tone, some of it is in post production for sure. I have a nice cut through tone, but I like to add some extra compression on the end and boost it in the mix. But yeah, I think this definitely pumps through. If you got any bass or technique, double thumb, any questions, I'm all ears.
Yeah, well, how long have you been doing the double thumb? Like, was it from watching Victor Wooten, or what made you want to? And also, this is an ongoing topic. Did you learn how to slap like Flea and Lewis Johnson with the thumb up, or with the thumb down? Sorry, or are you doing? Did you learn the way you're doing it straight away, or did you have to switch over? I suppose.
Yeah, so I started with, I call it traditional slap and pop.
Okay, that's a good way of calling it.
Traditional slap and pop is the Flea style, where it's just your right hand. The most you're doing is, slapping and popping with maybe hammer-ons and pull-offs and dead notes, muted notes. Then the next threshold I consider, yes, the double thumb, the advanced slap techniques, where the thumb is going up, the left hand is up, can come into play. I call this left hand fretting, using, fingers 1 and 2. I have a roll technique. I can go through a bunch of the techniques I use, but I started with traditional slap and pop. I went to the double thumb stuff too early, just like anyone. I get tons of questions like, I just can't get it, everything like that. And I find that those people, most of the time, who aren't getting double thumb is because their traditional slap technique isn't good. I have evolved with my thumb. I definitely started pretty downwards, like Flea, that kind of. But I find you can't come up if you're that downward. So I started to, once I learned some Marcus Miller style bass lines, I started to turn up a little more. So I'd like to say I'm, definitely kind of just in the middle now. Sometimes it depends on my mood, or if I know I'm not going to use advanced stuff, I'll go a little more downward, because there is some speed on the down approach. But no, the way to go is traditional slap and pop. Get all your basics down, muting, huge part, and then you can start to work on the accuracy of attacking the down and up.
What would be some kind of simple bass lines you'd probably show a student to get that kind of thing going, the double thumb?
The double thumb, I would definitely start with just taking, so Victor Wooten, when he first learned the double thumb, he couldn't get the feel of this, like, just bouncing eighth note groove, like with his fingers. Like, I think it was just like a. He just said he didn't have the feel in his fingers. So what you want to do is be real simple at first and just take your thumb and try and just, with one note on one string, go through the string. Switch cameras. Go through the string, landing on the other ones. I like to do it at the end of the fingerboard, because if you're in here, it's a gray area. This can dip too low. Through the string and just up, and try and groove with it. Some people are just going like, try to use it like a pick. You got to make music out of it. And do it on every string. And once you can start grooving with it, you can start to do a little more speed. Then you want to start bringing in the other fingers. So that's really how I get started. I think everyone's trying too much at first. They're already trying to bring in the down up pluck. It's like, oh my God, you got to spend months on just the thumb, develop the callus, the feel, the accuracy. You should be able to completely, you don't want to do that, but completely be able to kind of torque your hand and just go through the string. It's all accuracy, and then in a combination with muting, which is important.
Yeah, do you like Mark King as well? His left hand muting is very important to his style.
Absolutely. Mark King, I put in the same boat as Les Claypool when I talk about left hand muting. So left hand muting is when the hand here touches the strings, and then you use these fingers here to kind of just catch them and, kind of dampen the strings. It's very easy to press down and fret a note. So you need to find that fine line between muting the strings and just kind of catching them. So, when I combine it, if I do muting here, dead note, that kind of thud like dead note. So when you combine the thumb, this left hand muting and popping,
sounds like Lacquerhead.
hey, yeah, you know your Primus. It is Lacquerhead.
Oh, I was obsessed, man. I had every album. He's play all the songs in a kind of a funk metal band I had.
Oh, that's awesome. Me too, man. Yeah, no wonder you like my stuff. I'm a huge Primus like fan, especially when I was a teenager. But that was my first stage after traditional slap and pop. Before I got into double thumb, I got into that Lacquerhead style stuff. So technically, this left hand is a muting, but I always tell people we've already done it before. When you hammer on something, that's the same thing, but instead of fretting the note, you're just going to kind of take this hand up and lift it up.
Mm-hmm.
So when you combine that with notes, the left hand muting and traditional slap and pop, you can get a lot of cool, rhythmic textures just from the left hand.
And would you ever say to someone, because obviously slapping is really good fun, but it doesn't get you a gig most of the time, would you ever say to a young student, I think we should focus on the fundamentals before we go become slap masters? Or would you say, look, if you want to do slap every day, that's cool with me?
Well, I wouldn't only do slap with someone, but it depends, because I, growing up, was someone who was so attracted to slap. I wanted to do it. But there was a blend. There has to be a blend. Yeah, you need to be able to really know the fundamentals. And for me, I'm huge on arpeggios, just multiple ways, knowing your fretboard. We don't have to read music. I know there's some teachers that you have
Yes.
to read music. I like my students to read at an intermediate level. It's there for reference and everything.
I think reading rhythms is so beneficial. Like even if you never read the dots, you open up a whole new language that you can speak to a drummer if you can read rhythms. It improves your internal rhythm. You can go like, there's like 9 common rhythms like dotted eighths and stuff like that. If you can see them and play them, that's really beneficial. Even before you can read the dots.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a I don't know. It's definitely a tricky subject when it comes to telling people what the specific way of how they learn, what they can do. So I try to bite my tongue and not say things sometimes. But I think students should have choice. If someone literally picked up this instrument because they wanted to slap, maybe I'll make them. They got to tough through some stuff. But if it's their true goal, yeah, of course we'll try and intertwine it. And I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by, if we want to learn slap technique, we can slap some arpeggios and octave shapes and all that stuff
exactly.
like that. So I don't really have a definite answer on, if they want to be slap masters, do we avoid it or do we go for it? It depends on the person. I think everyone should have a choice. I think it's wrong to say like, this is the only way you can, the only path you could go down. So I don't have like a curriculum on bass freedom or my lessons. It's like, I'm going to adapt to you. Because everyone has a different musical path, different goal, different abilities. It can't be one way.
No, definitely not. Like, and at the end of the day, music's supposed to be fun. So to say to someone, I'm not going to teach you slap because it's not going to get you a gig. Maybe they don't want to get a gig. Maybe they just want to play slap and that's what they find fun in music. So yeah, it has to be a different way for everyone.
Yeah, if you're trying to get gigs, then maybe you shouldn't have a presence of just only being a slap guy now. I mean, that maybe that won't get you calls. It depends on your goals. But I'm a huge ambassador that slapping, ghost notes, some of the flashier but percussive stuff helps your internal clock, your timing. So it's like, oh my God, I became so much more of a rhythmic person when I'm essentially being a drummer.
Yeah.
I mean, you might not, yes, you're not going to be doing that at your bar gig, your local bar gig. But we want to get the best we can at our instrument and we do things because they're fun for us. It doesn't, you when you play that 2-hour bar gig, you chill, you play your role, you do your thing. Another thing that I bite my tongue with is the
Don't
haters.
bite your tongue, man. Just let it all out. This is a safe space.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. I grew up a slapper and like a flash, attracted to that stuff, and then I settled in and I really learned how to be solid pocket player, do my role. And now that, thanks to social media, you can do both of that. I could do the underrated bass lines and just play with the bass lines, not do anything crazy, but I could also show you how to incorporate double thumb with left hand fretting and roll techniques and 16-note triplets. I mean, you could do it all now. So I don't think there's any rules, excuse me. But when I say I bite my tongue, it's just more, the haters out there on the slap bass. We have an instrument that gets a lot of hate, but I don't know.
We try to talk openly on this, but I'm always saying I'm trying to add to the conversation, not to the noise. So if you're just slagging something off for no reason, that's just bullshit, really. But we try to have like a conversation if we can about things. Like I love playing slap as well, but I obviously I don't get a gig doing it, but I still find myself learning it. I'm learning like a Davey 504 line at the moment, because I actually think he's a really good bass player. I know he gets a lot of hate, which is completely unfounded, but I'm learning a thing of his called slap. It's like a lot of double thumbing in it, and it's just a nice little piece. But someone like him even gets hate, and obviously he does silly videos, but he's still like one of the best bass players you can watch on the internet.
Yeah, I think if you're getting hate, that means someone's watched enough of you to have an opinion. That's a good thing. Bass is always going to have that element of it when it comes to slap and maybe some of the older heads, but I love Davey 504. His tone is incredible.
Yeah,
he's funny. Some people will be like, I don't think I'm at a level yet where I can like battle with him or anything, but I would love to do that stuff one day.
Yeah, I don't know what he does. He like records them and then does playback, because I was learning his piece and I was thinking, man, this is really hard and the shapes are really weird. There's no way he recorded this live, but he got like a perfect take or comped it somehow. But the shapes in it are just bizarre, and the little runs and things. But yeah, you could definitely do one of those battles, like throw some of those crazy licks in.
Oh yeah, no, if we're just having a flexing game, I would love to go against Davey 504, because he does a lot of the same techniques I do. We like double thumb. He's more of a tapper type of, when he does like actual like Van Halen style tapping. I'm more of like a sweep tapper. I mean, you talk about not getting a gig, that's stuff. But diving back into that, I like learning how to sweep arpeggios on my instrument has made me know my arpeggios all over my instrument. So it's like, I'm going to do a video on that too. It's like, and I have to say, because I get it. It's like, no, the haters would be like, why don't you just play guitar if you're sweeping? It's like, well, guitarists might be able to do that in a song or whatever, but I am learning more about my instrument, and it's freaking fun. That should be enough to want to learn something. That's like Billy Sheehan style sweeping. It's really helped me know my arpeggios all over. I was really into that stuff.
It does. Like when you start learning, those kind of melodic, kind of very slow tapping parts, when you realize that if they're just certain shapes of arpeggios, and if you tap those and do it sounds unreal, and you're writing these really cool pieces of music. That is a good way of learning your arpeggios.
Oh yeah, we're bassists. Our main goal in most settings are to outline chords. What makes up chords? Arpeggios. So if we know them in every way possible, starting on different fingers, spanning across our neck, extended, even if it involves tapping, it's just increasing our knowledge of the fretboard. Everything shouldn't come down to, is it going to get you a gig or not? Because not everyone gigs. A lot of people just want to play for fun and learn. And I listen to tons of music that has had that style of playing in it too. I mean, you look at some of the music that's coming out nowadays. Some of these guys are doing some flashy stuff. We're not all talking about James Jamerson or Motown style bass lines or Paul McCartney bass lines. Some genre calls for aggressive slap or even some cool little, flary. I have some videos where I've made sweep tapping work. It's like a textural thing, good way to end the song, when everyone's, or you can make it work.
Would you ever bring out a book, like a hard copy? Because I saw that, what's that guy? I'm always forgetting people's name. He's like Dave Navarro. Is it not Dave Navarro? That's the guitarist that used to be in Jane's Addiction. It's something Navarro, but he has like this crazy deep bass voice. It's almost
Nathan Navarro.
And when he talks, it's like he's using a vocoder. His voice is like about an octave lower than mine. It's like he was born to play the bass. But he just brought it. He's amazing. But he just brought out a book. And the book is for beginners and advanced. So the first two chapters are beginner stuff, but then there's like this super advanced stuff at the end. Do you think you'd ever bring out a hard copy yourself of a book? Like,
Yeah, I think so. As being a website business that is a subscription service, right now the goal is to just put content on there that people can access. Once months, years pass where I have tons and tons of content on there, I can maybe take a specific, a specific piece of or technique or fundamental and put into a book for people who don't want to just like pay and sift through things. So I would do that, but it's not a right now goal, but I wouldn't rule it out.
And are there any educators that kind of inspired your pedagogy and, well, inspired you to even become an educator, I suppose? Did you always teach your mates how to play a bit of music, or was there something that made you decide, I'm going to be a teacher?
That's a great question. It wasn't anyone specific more than, yes, I think in the bands that I'd played with growing up, I always was curious about what we were doing, more, I would often not even write the music, bassists can write music, but I would join a band, guitarist wrote a song, and I'm like, what's going on here? So I would kind of dissect it to myself. And then I found if I ever felt confusion towards something, I wanted to know what I was doing. So that was kind of self-induced or just being in bands. There wasn't a specific person that really made me want to go into teaching, to be honest. I have studied tons of different type of educators throughout the years, and I've learned from all of them, but no one specific. I would think it's just more my experiences, and I love to show people how to do things, so not just in bass. So I think the writing was on the wall. When I was a teenager, I wanted to be touring in a band like everyone else, but I really always loved just the why behind things. So I think that was kind of self-induced more than a true idol when it comes to teaching. I have bass idols, but I don't really have teaching idols.
Yeah, I have. Well, it was Jim Sinnett, who sadly passed away earlier in the year. He was definitely the guy who made me get into like being a teacher. Like I was doing some lessons, but it was literally just necessity. I was like, I can't work on the building site every day and be a musician. My hands are killing me. So like it was necessity doing the lessons. But then when I saw him on YouTube, it kind of made me, I really got into what he was doing and kind of upped my own game as an educator. Like,
that's awesome. That's awesome, man.
But did you ever try the solo bass? Since your technique is so advanced, I never see you doing any kind of just solo bass pieces. Have you ever thought of getting into that side of things?
Yes and no. Again, being honest and not biting my tongue, I find sometimes just solo bass tracks, or it's just not the most entertaining of like music, especially if it's just like all on bass, like loop stuff. I am still someone who loves, like, I don't know. I've thought about it. I've had some bass pieces, which I've showcased. I had this one called From a Different Planet. I've done some bass pieces I've put together, but like my own music, I think that's in the future for sure. Because I write a lot of riffs and stuff, and people like, oh, where can I get this? But
do you remember any of your pieces or the riffs off the top of your head, since you have the bass in your hand?
Oh yeah, I have tons of things. I'd say my style with writing still ends up being more of a song. Like it's more to be a bass line, and I'd build guitars and program drums around it. It would still turn more into songwriting than like just showcasing my abilities, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But certain pieces do showcase my abilities. They're From a Different Planet. And if I'm thinking of how to play that stuff, that's flashy. That's like when I say bass piece, it's not a song. It's
an etude. I like to call them an etude. Like it's like,
yeah,
this is a really good technique, and here's a nice piece of music I wrote. But it's not a song you're going to listen to on Spotify. But it's a nice piece of music to play to learn this technique.
Exactly. That's perfect, man. Yeah. So it's like, besides from Victor Wooten's A Show of Hands, which was like me and my, when he did like me and my bass guitar, and I don't know if you ever heard, You Can't Hold No Groove. That's like a masterpiece of a solo album where, it's just, you don't need anything else but his.
Yeah, you'd listen to that.
Yeah, exactly. So that stuff, but I don't know, solo bass, there's so much I want to do, and that's a great question. I wish I had more time to kind of focus on like pushing my own music out there. But when you're trying to become an educator and teach everyone else, in addition to creating videos to entertain everyone else and building your own website, it's just, you gotta have to pick and choose. But yeah, I do have some original pieces that I've done, and some parts from it you wouldn't think are just like a flashy part, like I have some cool, like, kind of spooky sounding type of riffs, but they always turn into turn a little more. Just some cool slap
Yeah, that's
stuff,
really cool.
that I said could still be viewed as a song. But that piece showcases for sure some the peak of my abilities. There's some double thumb stuff. Some flamenco. I kind of got it from Les Claypool. Some like flamenco style striking.
Yeah.
It's got some cool stuff in there with
I love that stuff. That's awesome. I'm doing some of that myself. I'm going to release something, but it's not going to be something you listen to on Spotify. It's just going to be like, here's a really cool 60 seconds of music showcasing this technique, and you can learn the piece of music, and you'll be able to do the technique then.
For sure, that's a great idea.
Don't steal my idea.
No, I won't. Yeah, I was gonna say I write tons of music, but I'm more of like a riff writer than like a songwriter, because there is the bassist in me. I do play keys, guitar, and all that stuff, but I definitely find myself like a riffy guy. So when I was in a band, it was definitely a communal thing where it'd be like, oh, we're jamming, or I came up with something, and then it turns into things. Then like I had, like, you know, Lennon McCartney style, like I got lyrics and a full song ready. You guys build over it. So I think original music's in my future. I really, to be honest, would.
I think you haven't met the right person yet, because like
you said what I was gonna say.
Like, come on, like in my band, I like, you know, the bass lines and stuff, and me and the drummer have this great connection. But the singer and the guitarist is amazing at what he does. So like, I can write an amazing bass line, and then he puts his thing to it, becomes an amazing song, you know. So you definitely, sometimes you need to find the right people, and when the drummer comes in, we make a song with the three of us, but as individuals, we're not as good as we are as the three of us. So I think that's what you're waiting for, to find your kind of songwriting partner, I suppose.
Oh, for sure. You said exactly what I was going to say. I think instead of me like doing a solo like bass, like, you know, album or something, or I would probably just wait to find the right musicians that are the same style as me, where I can, you know, have really do all the things I want to do and it's still in my style, and then we collaborate. I think that'll happen down the line. Hopefully, if things can continue to evolve for me, that'll put me into touch with other musicians who I'll be able to gel with, and you know, maybe we can become a social media band or something. And
yeah, well, hey, talk about things coming together. Nate Navarro toured with Devin Townsend on the last tour he did. You know, the metal guy.
Yeah.
Because of his YouTube fame, he got hired to be in that band. So you never know what could happen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true for sure. It helps to do that stuff too, because, you know, there'd be like, people would be like, oh, Andrew Freed, you know, like, I'm not in a popular band that's world known, so, you know, what's my thing? I guess, well, Bass Freedom will help, because it's, you know, that's the guy from Bass Freedom, the you know, the teacher, the main guy at Bass Freedom. But I've often thought that, like, oh man, I don't have a true band that I've, like, what am I known for? So, and I sort of just said, well, I can't worry about that, because there's some luck. So I do my thing, put out videos, just be myself, and let it, you know, who cares what you're known for? And then hopefully that, you know.
Well, I'll give you a tip from people I know who are really successful in the session bass world. You just send a message to someone if you like their music and say, do you want some bass? That's how a lot of these connections happen. People generally don't come to you with that stuff, but if you hear someone's music you like and you say, hey, do you want some free bass tracks? And, you know, builds a relationship. And if you like their music, you'd be okay with laying down some tracks for them, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Can't be scared to speak out. I do a lot of session work as well for people who hire me. I don't make it marketed as much because I'm so busy with lessons and the content and the website. But that's definitely good thing for people who want to just, especially if you're going to offer your free services. That's a good tip.
Well, yeah, I'd really have to like the song to be doing work for free. I can't remember last time I did anything for free with music. But if I really liked someone's song, I was thinking this person could really blow up, I'd be saying, do you want bass line? You know? Yeah,
no. So a lot of this stuff is new. I'm newer to the game. I feel like you know, hopefully a couple of years from now, I would love for some of the people we've talked about to know who I am. But I think I'm kind of new into this game. I'm still in my 20s, just for one more year. So still kind of grinding out my 20s to
hey, still a young buck, man. You've got years ahead of you.
Yeah, I'm 28. I turned 29 in July.
Well, I think you've a bright future in this whole online thing, and you know you've got your chops are obviously there. Like, so I'm sure someone's going to call you. You'd like to do a tour, like a proper, being a big touring band, doing one of those gigs. Like,
I don't know.
It's tough going. I can tell you, I've done it. It's grueling.
I've toured with like the local groups I've been with. You know, you do like 10 dates, 12 dates. You know, couple weeks out on the road. You know, with I never really in my mind consider them true tours, but yes and no. I really, as I said, I am a part of me as a homebody and doesn't want to be on the road for months, to be honest. I almost like the online educational route. Eventually want to start going live and, you know, doing things like that. So yes and no. I mean, if a really famous person's going to hit me up and say, would you tour this? Obviously, yes, but that's not my biggest goal right now. I'll let things come to me, but I would like to build the online following, build the online business, and anything else after that is just cherry on top.
Class. Well, is there anything you want to say to the listeners? Do you want to, I suppose, just where is the best place to check you out? Instagram and TikTok, is that your main hangout? And I think YouTube as well. So you're fairly active on all three of them, like. Yeah.
So if you just search Andrew Freed Music on Instagram, TikTok, those are definitely my two biggest thriving and consistent platforms right now. YouTube, I post every couple weeks. Try to, you know, it's all time. Try to put more content out there daily. But that I'm really trying to get more consistent on. Those are really detailed, like edited, heavy videos. Instagram's like underrated bass lines, you know, slap breakdowns, things that take me some time, but not, you know, hours and hours and hours of editing. Mm-hmm. So YouTube, I think I've actually put on a higher threshold of there's educational videos, underrated bassist videos, just all bass content on there that's a little more detailed. So those are the big three. I am on Facebook too. Honestly, Facebook, when I used to do the covers I was talking about with costumes and the green screens, I had a big following then there, but Facebook's sort of fallen off, in my opinion, when it comes to social media. It's very, you got to boost, like, put money into everything. It doesn't show it to your followers. So I'm on Facebook.
In my band, we barely use our public page anymore, but we have a private page for our fans, and there's, you know, a few hundred of them in there, and they see 100% of what you put up. So that's like a little cheat, but they'll probably ruin that soon as well.
Yeah. So I'm on all the big four, but the big ones right now have been Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Everyone's going to check you out, and Asher, we'll keep in touch. I'm sure we'll you come on another time when you've got one of these, a new course or something or whatever, like.
Yeah, for sure. If you ever want, this was fun. I would love to come back, break down some stuff, talk about things, and yeah, I follow you now, so I'll have to check out the band and check out the interviewer. So man, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.